Stream. All right, it is 6:31. I'm going to call this special city council meeting to order as the committee of the whole. Ask you to join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Haderlein.
Present.
Platt-Miller.
Here.
Lavallee. Hoeflich.
Here.
Lancaster. Kriete.
Here.
Perkins. Lorena. Quorum not present.
All right, so we do not have a quorum present, so we are not able to admit Alderwoman Rosa Luna into the meeting because we do not have a quorum present physically. That means we can continue to hold the meeting, but we can't take any action. So you cannot make any motions tonight unless a member joins us later in the meeting and creates a quorum. So with that stated, I don't have the agenda up on the screen tonight because we have Bejot is going to go over the strategic vision. So before we move on to that, though, we'll go to item 3 is to authorize a council member to join the meeting, which we cannot do. Next would be public comment. Is there anyone who has public comment? Please,
Thank you, Mike.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Jay Schultz, 1503 Pheasant Run, Harvard, Illinois. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. First off, I want to say I watched the meeting last night. It was fantastic. I actually listened to it, but it was fantastic. I want to send out props to Gary because I thought the plan was well thought out, and you guys have a lot of hard decisions to make. There's not easy choices here. I wish more people in the city understood that, but they don't. So I'd say keep communicating as much as you can that unfortunately, there's only so much we can do. I'm here tonight to talk about the tennis courts at Shadow Creek. When I was a park board member, and an alderman over 2 years ago, the park board and the city council voted to have those removed. The former city administrator delayed that because he was looking to possibly put a project there. He never asked for approval, but he did that. And then that project was, there was something else occurred. They moved it. It was a cell tower, and they moved it somewhere else. But the tennis courts are still there. It's been 2+ years, so, or more. And I certainly don't blame Rob. This is not a blame thing. This is more of a accountability thing. As a city council members, you have the authority to tell the city what you want done, the employees what you want done, and you need to hold them accountable to get that done. You need to ask for a timeline and updates. So that is what I'm requesting on the tennis courts. As a taxpaying member of this community, a timeline and an update on when that will be completed. I'm also asking about the lots in the retention pond in Shadow Creek. The park board and the city council approved lots on the retention pond to be sold. And I don't believe that they have been put up for sale. So I would like a timeline and an update on what is going on with that. Other than that, again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much, and I wish you well. You guys have. I did this for 8 years. I absolutely understand what you're going through. You do wonderful things, and I want to thank you for your time. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Anyone else wish to address council? Seeing none, we will move on to item number 5, which is the strategic vision plan review.
We're having technical difficulties, Mayor.
Okay.
We keep getting booted off the internet.
Oh, she is?
Yes.
Okay.
Lorena is on her way. She's got the meeting.
Oh. I wonder if we pause for a few minutes while we have technical difficulties and see if we can get her to join, and then we could bring Rosa in.
She's
Hopefully.
right here. She's waiting.
Anticipation.
No, it shouldn't be. Wait, this one up here? I don't think so.
Just tell me when it's up there. I think it's inactivity.
Okay.
Is the issue connecting through there?
I think it's inactivity.
Oh, connectivity.
Time's out.
Keep moving your mouse.
Okay, so you're going to handle it for
Yeah.
me? Okay.
You just tell me.
Are we still going to pause for a little bit?
Do we want, can we take like a 5-minute recess and just wait for her to get here, I think? Everybody okay with that? All right, well, let's take a 5-minute recess and hopefully she can get here soon.
I like that little curtain. All right. That's my creativity side. It's about as good as it gets.
That must be a new feature.
Yeah, I think it is one of the updates on PowerPoint,
Yeah.
or for 365, right?
Oh, okay.
You get more options.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's not just zoom in or,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just noticed it just now, to be honest with you.
It's in your head.
Good thing Rob's seen me today. He's the one who reminded me of the meeting tonight. I forgot.
I think once you're used to the regular cadence, it becomes.
Well, I looked at, for the parks, but all the committee meetings I was on, but I
Right.
forgot about that.
Yes. No, no,
And
not,
we,
It's
and
been
we
doing this week.
went back and forth.
Yeah. If that makes sense, because I'll be doing something and then I'll go back and then I'll look and
I
it's
think it's
disconnected.
inactivity.
Oh, it is extremely.
Yeah, we'll find out. That's why we have a hard copy. Let's cut back.
Carrie told me it was beautiful. He sees so much potential.
if it was my kid, I could track her and say, oh, she's on.
Yeah.
Okay, week and a half, I'll go see. I will knock on the door. Mess. Oh, it's hot. It's not too bad. Sorry. Get some air. We find that when it's humid, it's better to keep the windows closed. And just have.
Doesn't know what it wants to do.
Dust, you know. Yeah, okay.
No.
That one took too long.
Never talks to me otherwise.
Yeah. Some of them get too long and it takes, like the curtain takes a long time.
Do you start swearing at it and then it says, don't talk to me?
Yeah. No, the first part when I done that, but I'll call, didn't have enough color and I did transition. Did you have to dress it up a little bit? I'm like, this is kind of shirley.
That's the guy that told me I had a transition on every single slide, and he's like, that's too much.
Let me get too interesting.
They were there
Maybe if I,
tonight.
choose the right one, they'll actually
The
listen.
one, the green.
Because the original series.
They were there tonight, they were there Sunday, I think they're just trying to. Yeah. Hey, it's a, yeah.
That's why you're just strong.
Yeah, it's a different kind of drawing.
Yeah, he told me, when I asked him a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they thought it was at 7.
That's nice.
He said see you tomorrow night.
What's wrong with you?
So they came into the roof farm.
Twisted.
If she's not here by quarter till, we're going.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste everyone else.
So, but I think they're just trying to figure out what to do. We'll see if
No, really, no. But, you know, definitely, yeah, if you participate, definitely participate.
Yes, yeah.
They're not the same. Two of them are half the German Shepherd.
All right.
I feel like this was a day he could.
Because I'm gonna go back and.
Everybody is, yeah, somebody who couldn't make it.
The windows there are all, they, I think the latches are bad, especially in the winter time.
I don't know where it will be.
There were many years ago.
I'm just looking at my calendar and I'm overwhelmed. Keep avoiding things because I'm just so.
Well, I mean, they could do it, and it was some, you know, it was warm out there, so, but they have secured, now they put, you know, put the door closed. I said it had been from the time. Yeah. Yeah. So, you should probably reach out to her again. Now you got your hands full.
He worked with that. 1 year, 2 months.
Where else are you building a house?
Sorry. Is that the plan?
It does. I don't know which one. I think it's game. Is it? I think it looks like game. Maybe.
Yeah, it's just like right there at the end. I haven't.
Try not to.
Sometimes.
You ever seen that in chemistry class?
Gosh, I'm so old, I don't remember.
Stay away from
That'd be trouble.
Yeah, you don't have time for trouble.
Wasn't invented yet.
No, not really.
Hey, I said it for you.
That's a way better.
For you.
You were in grade school when number 0, right?
Yeah, after we, you know, did math on our
Sometimes.
chisel.
So next week, we'll take which one I
Oh, dude.
What's that? Yeah, in grade school, you know, because how, you didn't even have lunch yet? You just counted stones on the ground?
don't get me started on organic chemistry. More exciting.
More moles. 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd power.
I don't know how I messed up.
I don't know why I remember that.
I don't know why you remember that either.
That's pretty useless information.
There was a song.
Or we had a lot of songs, especially in English.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right.
I can name every helping verb, I think, because of the rhythm.
I know.
Do all the states in alphabetical order.
I cannot do that, nor can I name the capitals of every state.
So what are you doing downtown?
All right, it's quarter till. It's quarter till. I'm gonna call the meeting back into order so we can move along. If another alderperson comes along, then we can address it at that time. I just want to give a brief overview for item 5, the strategic vision plan review. This is really about to, especially for our newer alder people, kind of where we were, where we are today, and a look at where we might want to go. Let the record reflect that Alderwoman Lancaster has joined the meeting, and as such, we have now established a quorum, and then we could admit Alderwoman Rosa. So let me give her a call.
Hello.
Hi, Rosa. So this is Mayor Kelly. We are admitting you into the Special City Council Committee of the Whole pursuant,
Okay.
to meet electronically pursuant to section 2.05.h. All right, so thank you and welcome to the meeting. All right, so you're welcome. So just as I was stating, now that we have a quorum and all, and Alderwoman Rosa has now joined us, the strategic vision was a plan that we put together as a city council. City staff gave lots of input, and we also took input from the community, business owners, and other stakeholders within the community when the original strategic vision was created in 2017. So since then, there's been an update to that vision last year, or was it 2 years ago now? I think it's 2 years ago now. And with, kind of a turnover of the new city council, this is a good time to take a look at this in detail, give you some updates of the things that we've accomplished, and then allow each of the department heads or staff to kind of give their input on what we've done. And the priorities of everything that we do as a city is kind of set by this vision, because the vision helps us create the priorities for each department and the things that we're going to address as long-term projects and short-term. It also kind of helps us for budgeting purposes, because it generates those particular priorities and projects we want to do, and so then the budget kind of aligns with all of that information as well. Let the record reflect that Alderman John Lavallee has joined the meeting at 6:48. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to dock you for this. Okay. So at this juncture, I'm going to turn this over to our interim city administrator, who's going to kind of walk through this presentation. I thank staff for giving the input and making sure that we had all this prepared for you so you can understand where we are today and the things that we've accomplished according to this vision.
Thank you. So as the mayor said, this is part of the entire strategic vision, which can be found on the homepage of our website at the bottom. What I've done is I've taken excerpts from that full plan and tried to condense it so that we can accomplish 4 things tonight. There'll be a brief introduction, strategy and progress update, 25-26 plans, and then the next steps that we want to take. So each section has 2 pages, and that is also how the original document is set up. The first page of each section is going to have a strategy, and the second page is going to show progress, milestones. Some of them may seem redundant, but that is how the document is set up, and it's just, so that we stay on track. So the introduction. The important thing to remember when we're looking at this is how we want to look by 2040. So it may seem in some areas that we're not making much progress today, but this is our vision of how we want to look when we're done. So our vision is stated in paragraph form in the document. I've broken it down into bullet points. I won't read each one of them. The same with the mission. So the vision, what we want to look like, the mission, our aims and values, and then the inclusive community, our statement of commitment. So these 3 main sections encompass what we looked at when we formulated this vision and how we wanted to be by 2040. Okay. So let's start with what we've accomplished so far, and we're going to start with the first area of consideration that the decision makers when formulating this vision felt were the most important, and that is strong and reliable infrastructure. By 2040, investments in all infrastructures and facilities, including trees, landscapes, and gardens, state-of-the-art water treatment facilities, health and environmental sustainability, roads, sidewalks, and water sewer systems, well maintained through data collection and replacement plans, fiber optics connect every part of the community. That's a summary of what we want to accomplish. So if you look at each section, each bullet point under strategies, at the end, I have put in capitals where we're at currently with these things. So citywide infrastructure study to establish replacement plans for streets, sidewalks, water, and sanitary sewer systems and trees. This is all in progress, and we know this through the infrastructure committee with the plan that Gary presented last night. The tree board is working on different strategies for grants to populate the community with trees. Of course, we have the water sewer master plan, which we developed in 2014, and have made tremendous progress with that, given we just opened our new plant 2 years ago. And then our sidewalk master plan, which is part of the work that Gary's doing for us right now. Communication plan to share street improvements with residents. In my opinion, we have done this. We communicate very well through Public Works, through our websites, through the videos that Director Lamz does that have gained quite a following from what I understand. We have the GIS upgrades that are in progress. Those are eventually going to be complete and posted on the website so that every area of our infrastructure and the information that is needed can be obtained by the public. New funding sources for our paver management system goals in progress. We have made significant strides here as well. Federal and state grant funding is allowing us to do 4 of our major projects right now: Marengo Road Bridge, Diggins Street, and, we completed an area of Diggins Street and we have a second phase of Diggins Street all in the works. We also have our upgrades, our funding through the RTA for our 3 sections of sidewalk connectivity from downtown Air Street through the end of, down to Route 14, all in different phases, all in progress. We also have, of course, our bond will be issuing next month, or beginning the process to issue next month to fund our first 5-year road master plan that was discussed in depth at infrastructure last evening. And then, of course, our annual MFT funds that we apply as needed throughout the city based on Director Lamz as well as City Engineer Rozwadowski's recommendations. Again, street improvements with new funding. Currently, as of this year, we're kicking off our first year of using our non-home rule 1%, passed by the sales tax referendum last year. We have collected 1 year's worth of funds, and we will be expending roughly $600,000 to $700,000 of that this year between our Air Street resurfacing and some other areas that were determined to be of priority through the Infrastructure Committee. The 5th bullet point, engage with Metro, RTA, and PACE to explore ancillary transportation opportunities. Again, in progress when we look at our RTA projects, including sidewalk connectivity from downtown to the Route 14 Business District. And establish downtown wireless access, also in progress. Surf Internet is to wrap up the citywide fiber, hopefully by late summer. In summary, infrastructure's killing it. Not exactly the funnest of the areas of the plan, but they're doing a really good job. So, next one. And again, these are, kind of repetitive with the strategies of how the plan is set up, but milestones that we would aim to reach to be able to meet our goals by 2040. And all of those are pretty much what I just talked about. The exception being what is 100% completed would be the 3rd bullet point, road maintenance plan is in place to achieve the PCI of 52. And that plan is what Gary is going to finalize in final form for your review by September. Any questions on infrastructure?
What was that wireless thing by 2025?
Surf. The Surf Internet will connect the entire community.
So the project was to provide free wireless service to downtown patrons. Obviously, it's not going to be as fast as a wired service, but as part of our contract with Surf Internet, they will be placing wireless access, not only downtown, but also our big parks. So Northfield, Lions Park, and Milky Way.
So any other questions on infrastructure projects or progress we've made to date? Okay. Next category of importance was a safe community. We have a safe community with a small town feel. Our updated police department ensures better service from first responders. Staff culture is one of emergency preparedness to enhance community service, and accessible emergency alert systems keep residents well informed to prepare for emergency situations. A safe community, we're doing a great job with this one as well for our progress. You can see by the strategies that every strategy that was discussed has been either completed, is in progress, or is ongoing. Staff emergency management certifications are completed and updated each year with the police department. We are in the progress of building a diverse police force representative of the community. Our partnerships and coordination with the fire district and schools is ongoing. We hold regular and planned coordinated emergency scenario response training, I believe at least 2 a year. And we identify improvements to the emergency alert system. Code Red is continued in progress. I think it's done really well. I don't believe there's been any issues whatsoever. So the next slide. And these are our milestones, which we've met all of them. Again, our staff members are fully certified. Our members of the police department representative of the community, our current department size is 18 with 2 female officers and 3 Hispanic officers. We coordinate emergency response training 2 to 4 times a year, and we've just signed on with the McHenry County Regional Training Center as part of our 25-26 budget to enhance our training for our officers. Emergency system is accessible to all residents. Any questions on safe community?
Yeah, on the safe part, what about like the tornado siren and stuff?
Sure, for the edification of, sure. So for edification of new council members, I'll give you the history on that. So, I'm not sure what date that was, 2019?
Might have been a little earlier.
2018? 2018.
No, I was on the council,
Were you? So 2019.
2019.
Okay, I think it was before COVID, so
It was a year after we went to
NERCOM,
NERCOM.
yeah. So,
We had to go to because the button was actually in our dispatch center. So it was not wireless, it was all.
right,
And once we had to go to McHenry due to the consolidation for the state, it had to be wireless. And it was being set off remotely by somebody.
So-
In the middle of the night.
yeah, so essentially, so the tornado siren system that the city owns was an antiquated system from the Cold War era. It was really for nuclear attacks. It was repurposed for tornado sirens in our community as well as many other communities. He's right, at one point, the box actually sits in my office. It required someone to physically push this button that would set off all those alarms. And that worked out real well when we had dispatch located in our police station. In 2018, I think it was, the state mandated that all of these dispatch centers consolidate. And so we consolidated with a number of other agencies and created NERCOM, which is hosted by McHenry County, the city of McHenry, so it's in McHenry. As part of that, because if we had an emergency, our officers would call our dispatch when it was here, and then they would go over and push the button. That was no longer possible once we went to McHenry. So McHenry required some kind of wireless activation from McHenry. When that happened, the tones essentially that are required to set off the alarms could be copied by anybody, and because it is a broadcast signal, when the receivers receive it, they set off. They don't know where the code came from, other than the sirens received the code, they sound off. So we had several false alarms that were going off at all kinds of hours of night and day. And so it was a huge investigation to understand why this was happening, how it was happening, and it was determined that whoever was doing it had to be within line of sight of the sirens to get them to go off. But there was that could be, blocks away, right? So there was no way to ascertain who was actually doing that, and there was no way to prevent it. That wasn't going to be significantly costly for the city. So at that time, the police chief, Mark Kraus, was tasked with finding a solution that we could employ citywide that would replace these sirens. And of course, if you go through all the process of back through the minutes, there are pluses and minuses for the sirens. So the sirens, number one, are only meant to be heard if you're outdoors. If you're in your house, they're not designed to be heard if you're in your house. Secondly, there's no notification to people other than the sirens are going off. And indeed, in lots of studies where there's been fatalities due to tornadoes, the sirens actually beckon people to come check it out to see if there's a tornado coming. There's documented cases where fatalities were more because of the sirens. At the same time, if it's storming and windy, the effective distance of the sirens that you can hear them is greatly reduced. Lastly, there is no way to notify the community that the danger is over. So there are a lot of reasons why the sirens aren't necessarily the best communication effort. I do say that they are a type of warning system, but probably not the best with today's technologies. So at that time, we researched a bunch of different options, and ultimately the city council all agreed that the code red was the best solution to provide this early warning to residents. Now, where I find, based on what I see on social media, that there's a huge misunderstanding. The company that is over top of Code Red also has an application that you can get on your phone. Except that's not what the city signed up for. It's not an application. You physically have to go to their website with our link because it's connected to our community, and you log in and you create an account and you can sign up for multiple ways of being notified: by cell phone, by landline, by email, by text. Any of those or all of those. You can sign up, like I have it coming to my cell phone, to my landline, to my personal cell phone, to my email. Like, I get all of the different activations because I want to know when it goes off that those things are happening. Additionally, not only can we use it for tornadoes, but there are other things we can use it for, and that has been police activity where there was something else going on. And because of the way the system is designed, by the call-outs, you get a message that tells you what's going on. It gives you some instructions like, hey, there's a storm, take cover. Or, hey, there's high police activity in this area, please avoid these streets. Or whatever the emergency may be. And because of that, when you weigh out the two options of pros and cons, the Code Red was a vastly superior solution than just sirens. Now, I would absolutely agree if we had both, that would be great, but we can't afford both. That's the problem. And so, truthfully, the Code Red, and if residents would go purchase a weather radio, which is essentially $40, they would be well covered for any tornadic emergency because they'd be notified by the city and they would have the ability to get weather reports from NOAA Weather Radio that doesn't require electricity because of their battery backup kind of thing. So that's the solution that the council chose, and what we can see when those activations happen, we can see the thousands of calls that go out. We can see how many were accepted and people actually listened to it. We can see how many were rejected. We get all that feedback in a report every time we submit, we have an emergency. Does that help answer? Okay. Any other questions on that?
Not on that,
Okay,
but I have something else.
sure.
So, the school district just posted on their website that they are going to be doing a safety protocol called I Love You Guys. And so, does that coincide, does that change what we are doing with the emergency response with the police department and working with the community?
We've been working with them since day one on that.
Okay,
So that's part of the coordinated emergency response.
right, and that's, I just wanted to,
I actually have a training on the 21st
excellent, that's
with them.
just a confirmation, because again, they made the announcement, not us, you know,
Yeah.
or not you guys, so.
Yeah. It's their program, so we're
Okay.
just,
You're just following along.
the agencies that they're working with, that it says about, that's the fire, the police, and all the other county organizations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Safe Community, again, like infrastructure, has done a good job of progress milestones, and I'm fully confident those will continue. Efficient, effective government. 2040, we are responsive to our community needs with open communication, long-range planning is utilized, debt and revenue managed wisely, cost controls observed, while we still provide the highest level of services, complete transparency, technology utilized for effective communication and to engage and empower the community. We've built strong public-private partnerships supporting investment, growth, confidence, and pride in our community, and relationships with regional partners and legislators are demonstrated by support and investment in Harvard. Okay, with the following sections, anything you see highlighted in gray, there's work to be done. So starting with the strategies, we've increased our information available in Spanish along with translation supports completed. All agendas are translated in Spanish, all minutes are translated, and at least one staff member per department is fully fluent. Invest in technology and website to improve data and access to online services. That's in progress. We'll talk about that on the next page a little further. Review staffing matrix by department for succession plan model. Last year, a matrix was completed and presented. At this point, it needs to be updated, but the actual base work for that has been done and in place for succession planning when that is needed. Increase engagement with the McHenry County Council of Government. This is ongoing. Both staff and elected officials engage regularly with this organization. The four things highlighted in gray, we need to explore further. So that could be on your radar for potential direction and ideas on moving forward with those things to help complete this goal. Progress milestones, again, documents translated Hispanic staff and Hispanic officials. Website and technology improvements launched. Currently, we're in the process of, again, as I mentioned before, through infrastructure, our GIS services are going through continuous upgrading. Annually, we budget to make sure each year that we continue with that progress. This current budget year, we have allocated funds to Civic Plus for website upgrades, as well as changing our extension from .org to .gov. A little bit of a delay in that based on some lack of information that we have on our end. We do have outreach to Civic Plus, and that has been rescheduled to make sure that we get on track with moving forward with that project before the end of the fiscal year. Muni Code is in progress. They're working with our deputy city clerk to upgrade our coding system online. And as of right now, they have collected all the data. They are in the structural phase, which I believe we are supposed to have the document back for proof by September. Once we proof that and return it, everything will be uploaded on the website, and then they will maintain that regularly through that program. which is also part of this year's current budget. Again, participation with the McHenry County Council of Governments is active and ongoing. And as far as the last progress milestone, I do not believe there has been any work done towards city communication and information through a survey or any other means for resident satisfaction, so on the radar to meet that progress milestone. Any questions for those goals? Okay. Vibrant downtown. By 2040, our downtown district is a gathering place for both residents and visitors. Streetscape is revitalized to support a variety of shops and businesses. Upper story buildings are desirable living space in close proximity to restaurants, shops, arts and culture, and entertainment. All three of these strategies are in progress. In fact, we currently are working on a downtown master plan. Before Donovan Day left, he did draft a master plan, an RFP for a master plan to attract companies to bid on that project. We have not moved forward with publicizing that RFP yet. That is on the radar to get done here yet before the fall. Improve incentives for downtown building improvements to encourage development and quality upper story apartments. Again, in progress, we have our revolving loan program. We're working on a downtown TIF, and then we have the enterprise zone options for developers and new business owners.
Did you ever hear about that grant?
Which grant?
The DCEO, sorry. I think it was the Department of Community Economic Development, for the state, for the loan program.
Oh, for the loan program. So, yes, we have heard about that, and we need to discuss that. But it sounds like what we originally believed to be that program is not exactly what it is. So there's a huge match requirement.
Oh, okay.
But I actually have a call in to the economic development person that handles Rochelle, where we kind of heard about this. He's responded, and I'm trying to set up a meeting to discuss with him. He doesn't only do Rochelle, he actually does like Lee County, and I think the next county over. Ogle, yeah. Ogle. And so I'm going to try to set up a meeting with him to really kind of pick his brain on what they're doing in Rochelle, because that's where we had got wind of this, so I can fully understand that program and then update you accordingly.
Cool.
So.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, and then the progress milestones, again, master plan complete is our milestone. Draft is in progress. Wi-Fi access available downtown, that is also in progress. Rob, what is our most recent update with SURF for when we'll have that Wi-Fi access?
Can you hear me?
Rob, yeah.
There it goes. Yeah. Talk to Aaron. With the mic.
It's just you.
Why me? Thank you. Check one. Check two. One. Last time I talked to Aaron, he said that he was waiting to hear back from the design crew because they had to do some stuff where it was mounted aerial since they can't do the wireless from the ground. I'll touch back in with him. I talked to him about that last week. I know this was something that until they actually had the fiber in, there really wasn't a big push for that. So they just got the conduit ran. They're going to be starting to run the actual fiber cable soon.
And then the last two highlighted in gray, we do need some progress on that, although we do have the revolving loan, the new policy that will allow for some residential unit upgrades in the upper story buildings of downtown Air Street. And the final one, increased number and variety of downtown businesses. Again, we have the TIF in progress, revolving loans, and a new software system that we budgeted for this year that Donovan got up and running. We're still in the process of learning that. I've been through one quick training session. It's basically a business database that will track our new businesses and existing and new businesses, and at some point would be available to the community for them to also access that information. And that's about all I know about it right now. There is another meeting on this. We're going to meet monthly until our community development director position is full and can take over. So.
One point on the increased upper story residential units, the council did make a change to our ordinance that isn't going to enable this, and that was the parking requirement for upstairs apartments, because that was a barrier. So basically rescinding that part of the ordinance is going to permit people to be able to create upstairs apartments that they really previously weren't trying to, because they could never get around this parking issue. So,
Do we know how many actually exist?
how many apartments?
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know that we have that number. We might, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
I'm just curious. You know, I mean, I guess how many exist legally? Let's put it that way.
Sure. I don't know the answer to that, I'm afraid.
Okay.
And then also, I've kind of floated the idea in the past, and we've not really researched it extensively, but a vacant building ordinance might be in order to really help create some motivation for downtown. And so at some point, I am looking for one of the committees to kind of review that in detail to see, and we need to reach out to our attorney to see what we can legally create. So we don't want to create an ordinance that's going to get challenged, but we need something to help motivate some of our property owners to fill their buildings.
How many of those do we have?
Empty buildings?
Yeah.
6 or 7? Yeah. We have one property owner just purchased and is renovating down to the studs, and we've got a couple other buildings like the design coach is already deconstructed that and ready to start moving forward. But there's still a few others that are empty, and the city doesn't have a whole lot of teeth to make them put something in the building. So.
Some of them don't want to sell the building.
Yeah,
Right.
it's kind of mind-boggling,
Yeah.
but so.
Pay taxes.
Okay. Thriving economy by 2040. Our city has a strong economy, vibrant, diverse, and emerging businesses, history, culture, and rail access continues to support our growing visitor-based economy. Residents find a wide range of local career opportunities, educational options, workforce development programs. Access to capital and economic incentives is fluid, and the culture values homegrown businesses that attract residents and employers who share these values. Strategies: review, revise, and adopt an economic development plan. Unbeknownst to me, until I started putting this together, there is one in progress. It's something that our previous economic development director had drafted and passed on, and it never really went anywhere from there, but I do have access to that now, so we'll be looking at that further when we have that position replaced as well. The 2 items in gray, I do not believe there has been any significant programs or plans developed for those yet. Targeted business development, aviation and industrial park projects are in progress, as you know from various community development meetings. And then county and regional partnerships are active and ongoing. McHenry County Economic Development Organization, naturally McHenry County, who we are now members of. And if I probably missed some, this isn't the area I've been focusing on the last few years. So, but we are making steps in meeting these strategies and milestones. So, I do feel though, this next page, that all 3 of these are going to need some significant work to keep us moving forward. So when the new director is hired, I'm sure that will be on the agenda to discuss as some priorities to get us through in the next couple of years. Any questions on that? Okay. Housing and neighborhoods. Harvard has affordable housing that create charming neighborhoods congruent with a small town feel, attracting families and a growing workforce. Rail and vehicle connections to Chicago make Harvard an easy commute for employment opportunities and a convenient destination trip for visitors. For, again, the first two in gray, we need some work on improving policy to encourage development of existing subdivisions for workforce housing. That's been on the radar for a couple of years now. I think some different meetings and strategies have been attended, but nothing significant that has moved us forward yet. Incentives to encourage improvements to historical homes and neighborhoods. Again, we need to start moving forward on that. Improving code enforcement to address properties in poor conditions or abandoned properties. We've been quite successful in cleaning up several abandoned properties, and that is always on our code enforcement officer's radar and ongoing. And complete housing stock and residential land inventory to inform a residential development and housing plan is also in progress.
So who is doing that plan? The residential housing?
That's also some work has been found on that as well. So that would be the community development department once we have significant staff available to do it. But there is some documentation that's been started. So it's not completely gray, but it does need work.
Okay, thank you.
Milestones, increased workforce housing availability, that I think is the largest area of focus as far as things that have not moved forward yet. And then we had the discussion earlier, which we could put on an agenda to talk about as far as the missing middle housing and other types of strategies to move forward with that.
Can I ask a question? What's the difference between housing and workforce housing?
Good question. So, because the terminology tends to trip a lot of people up. So think of it this way. You have affordable housing, which is what most people think of when they hear the word workforce housing. But affordable housing is housing that is very affordable and oftentimes subsidized. Okay? Workforce housing is better stated as missing middle housing. In other words, middle income, people who are struggling to find housing that are in the middle income. And then there's luxury housing that is above that. So workforce housing is the housing, and there's a definition, I don't have it memorized, but essentially people who make the mean income level plus or minus like 20%. So it's based on the mean income level of your community, or in this case, the state of Illinois, and it's those people who are above and below that mean income level, which is your middle income, your middle income people, right? So, that type of housing isn't specific to the specific type. For instance, missing middle housing could be, or workforce housing could be townhomes, it could be single family homes, it could be duplexes, it could be fourplexes, but it's people who are, work, they're nurses, doctors, or maybe not necessarily doctors, but nurses, police officers, electricians, plumbers, just what we would think of as people who work. That's why it's called workforce housing. So.
Well, then, in our community, I would say every house in our community just darn near is workforce, is it not?
Generally speaking, most of the housing is, but there's some housing that you would call affordable housing, which tends to be probably a few of the apartment complexes in town, where also they have Section 8 type of housing, right, where they can accept Section 8.
I just don't know why we got to call it workforce housing. Why don't we just call it housing?
I think agree that the term workforce housing creates connotations in people's minds. And so, I prefer missing middle housing, but, and I've had this discussion with other, higher levels of government about, we're doing a disservice by using the term workforce housing because most people, associate that word with, Section 8 housing, and it's not Section 8 housing. But that's what people think of when they hear that word.
No, I agree. I think the workforce housing term for housing.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a new green word for housing.
Sure,
right?
sure.
So,
But yeah, you could just call it housing, right?
Right.
For all income levels, right?
I mean, I think our community would benefit from, having more housing.
Well, but I somehow getting across that, for instance, if your annual income, let's say, is $50,000.
Yeah.
You have about maybe $1,250 a month to spend on housing to be affordable. And that's like an apartment, a one-bedroom apartment in Harvard right now.
Okay. What's the point?
What's the point?
What's your point?
I think there are a lot of families in Harvard who are working and if they're making minimum wage or just a little above minimum wage, that's where they're at. And there's not a lot of housing that's available in that price range.
I disagree. I disagree. I don't argue with this here.
Yeah.
To be honest with
No,
you.
that's okay.
Point taken then, right? We understand. So, for certain, the community can, benefit from all kinds of housing. And I often, see people looking for housing from renting a room to a single-family home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. But often we see, people who are looking for price points that they can't obtain in our community today. That's the issue. Okay. Turn it back over to Deb.
Next area of consideration is arts and culture. By 2040, Harvard's arts and culture scene offers a wide variety of cultural events and community spaces, enhancing downtown. Open spaces, bike paths, parks, greenways, and community gardens are abundant. It's a destination for everything from weddings to weekend getaways, attractions to events centered around community and cultural heritage and the emerging art community. In looking at this, I don't really think we've addressed much of any of these strategies. This is, a difficult one to do because it requires a lot of participation outside of the city council and staff. So we definitely need to start brainstorming and moving forward on how we're going to achieve some of these strategies. Although we have made some progress, and on the next, on the next slide, we have seen an increase in events supported by the city. In progress, we have the Dios las Muertas, which we started last year, and we are doing this year, and I believe the intent is to do that every year. And that's been a nice group effort between community volunteers, the Parks Foundation, and the city. And then, of course, the farmers market that just started up this year. So those are two things that come to mind when I think about some progress we've made in some events, particularly trying to attract people to the downtown district. Arts and Culture Commission or board in place, I don't believe there's been any activity.
There's been no movement there.
Moving towards that. And then, obviously, with that comes options, projects, and funding from external sources. We can't get there till we get a group together who's going to work on those things.
May I make a quick correction? It's Dia de los Muertos.
Thank you.
Sure.
Did I spell it wrong?
Yeah.
She caught it before you. Thank you.
Masculine, right?
Dia de
Muertos?
Los.
It's
Los.
Los Muertos.
It's Los. L-O-S.
Los Muertos.
Thank you.
Muertos.
Muertos.
was a
Thank you,
huge
Lori.
cultural
We'll make it
thing.
a correction for the record.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else on arts and culture? Parks and recreation. By 2040, our parks and recreation opportunities provide spaces, playgrounds, and programs that residents enjoy. The city is committed to exploring ways to expand a variety of recreational opportunities. We cannot say an effort has not been made and that things are not in progress because this department has also done very well. Existing park improvements and redirected funding from our tax referendum, it continues to move forward each year. We do what we can, recognizing that we can't do everything at once. As far as reviewing the Parks Master Plan and revising or replacing it as necessary, I don't believe significant steps have been taken. I know that it's been reviewed from time to time. But
I'm sorry, we were doing it
oh,
on the
okay.
Parks Committee.
The review of the master plan?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I was not aware of
It's-
that. so-
Yeah, it's better stated it's in progress versus.
Okay.
Yeah, there has been some progress.
Okay. Can you just let me, like, get me up to speed on where that left off or how much was done
Sure.
on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, regular programming and communication and registration in progress. And last year, Stacy purchased and implemented Rec Desk, which I believe has been pretty successful. It's an easy program to learn because I can actually do it. So, but Joe's used it quite a bit already, and it's just a nice way to track programming and reconcile with the bookwork on my end as far as making sure everything's accounted for, as well as the community can get into the program on their own and do their own registration instead of having to go through city staff to do it. So we can still do it for them, and we do whenever they come in and ask for that, but they can also do it remotely on their own as well. And then building partnerships with libraries, schools, and other program providers. Library and the city work very well together. We also work with NISRA. And there's plans to reach out to other programs as Joe learns the ropes and figures out what's out there. Explore development of indoor space and recreational activities. Space has always been an issue. It continues to be an issue. We're using this room for a few things. We're using the senior center for a few things. And we have been working behind the scenes on trying to find another space. And when we have all that put together, we will bring that to council for consideration. Explore development of self-sustaining facilities, and that would be our rec center dream, to have our own large recreational space, which is always in the vision. So milestones, Park Master Plan, I'll change that again, so that is in progress. Park programs, we continue to, quite a few were built last year, some more successful than others. I know it is on Joe's radar to kind of take a closer look at what is working and what is not working, as well as trying to develop more marketing strategies to get more interest and information out to the public to make those programs more successful. And then, as I mentioned, a plan for indoor space is being formulated at this time.
Mayor,
Yes.
what happened to that big master plan for Milky Way? I think it was 4 phases.
Yeah,
Where
so.
are we with that?
So, good question. So that was I hesitate to call it a master plan, but a plan for Milky Way Park. And so we had submitted to OSLAD last year to try and start phase 1 of that. We have since discovered that that application was never actually considered by the OSLAD grant committee for a lot of reasons. And at the end of the day, the number one issue is that we do not qualify as a disadvantaged community for this particular grant application, which means that we must have 50% match of the 600,000 that we were requesting. And on top of that, we must have all 600,000 available to spend, and then they would reimburse us for the 50% after it is expended. We do not have $600,000 available to move forward. So that is something that we're going to have to review and discuss.
Okay.
All right?
Okay. Thank you.
Question on the parks. What are is the park, impact fees, is that just used for buying property or is it used for other things too? I don't remember.
Any impact fees that
For the
are
park.
designated for the parks basically goes into the parks fund.
It's not just goes into for buying more parkland, it just goes in the fund.
It goes into the parks fund, and then that fund is budgeted by the city council on how to spend it. Yeah, so it's a line revenue into the parks budget.
I didn't remember.
Sure.
So, a few months ago, the former administrator had presented a scenario with some funding scenario for building a small rec center at Lions Park.
Yes.
And there were funds that we were told were, some funds that were available for that project, and then other funds that would have to be bonded. Where are those funds?
So those particular funds are the additional the funds that we received that we did not reimburse the police department for the CARES Act.
Okay.
And so that funding had been placed into a CD. The CD became matured, but when we realized all this information is coming, it came out about the OSLAD, we renewed that CD. We can pull it back out when we need it, but so that funding's still there, but it's not enough to meet this criteria.
Right. Okay.
Some additional funding that was referred to was the tower rental that was to go downtown, which we've decided needs to be relocated, and that contract is still in negotiation. Haven't heard back from them, but some of that monthly revenue was to be earmarked for the payment on the finance portion of that project.
Okay. Thank you.
And that presentation was, there was no expectation that we would have any match for OSLAD, so that wasn't even considered for OSLAD, it was considered for that.
Right.
So at the moment, that is paused because we're going to need more direction from council on which way you want to go.
Okay, so no questions on any of those. We'll move on to what we're doing right now in this current fiscal year. This is kind of just a summary of each section. Of course, Air Street, Streetscape, under infrastructure, Air Street, Streetscape, the 5-year bonded road program, our MFT annual program, continuation of our Marengo Road, Bridge, and Diggins-Sumner projects, continuing our RTA projects, and downtown wireless access. Safe community, we will continue our new training venue, ongoing certifications and emergency training scenarios. Effective, efficient government, our website design, Municode development, GIS improvements, and our McHenry County Council of Governments participation. Thriving economy, complete our downtown economic development plan, complete our regional site study, and continue to work with our partners. Housing and neighborhoods, code enforcement continues, and we explore further abandoned property options. Arts and culture, partner in current cultural events. Parks and recreation, continue with our improvements, continue programming development and increase our marketing, improve partnerships with the school, and explore indoor space. And so now we just need some direction on where we're going to go from here. This album was released the year I was born. Just so you know.
And really, that direction, I think, is going to end up coming from each of the committees as we kind of break down. So what I think should happen, at least for the next couple of committee meetings, under that strategic vision, each committee should really kind of discuss, where do you want to go? What do you know, where are your priorities moving beyond this fiscal year so that we have some direction?
It's a good time to start thinking about that, because moving forward, we'll want to look at some more solid plans when we start working on the budget in November and December for final presentation to the council in February. So if we can have an idea of some of the things you want to look at in 26, 27, then we can start planning financially for that.
Any other comments or questions about the strategic vision?
And again, I'll bring this up in my community and economic development. But just, we sat here and we discussed a little bit about housing. And I think many of you know I've got about 30 years of real estate experience behind me. And I just want to bring this, as we're all together as a whole, I guess I could have gone under public comment for this as well. But one of the things, and I actually, on my police ride-along, discussed this as well, is one of the things that I noticed that we have a lack of in this community is what I would call mixed income housing or cross-cultural income exchange housing. I don't care what kind of label you want to put on it. I think the easiest way I can explain it is this. My husband grew up in Harvard, and when he grew up in Harvard, and there's good reason there isn't this right now, I get that, all the teachers lived in town on Hart or Jefferson Street because many of those single-family homes were used as duplexes. Even though they weren't technically legal, and we changed some ordinances because of the condition of them, it was affordable for a first-year teacher to live in walking distance from the school because this big giant house was actually used for 2 people. Yeah. So that was his, as we talked, and he actually grew up on a house on Hart Street that is still today 2 families in the midst of a whole bunch of beautiful Victorians.
There are a number of homes that still maintain that legal non-conforming status.
Yeah. And I grew up in Chicago where, very interesting, in most neighborhoods, you had 4 or 6 units on the corner and then single families all along the block. And I know in my ride-along, I was discussing this with the police department, we were talking about housing and how a lot of times when you compact people of a certain income together, this is where a lot of the police officers get their calls. And I said, well, I brought up this idea, and he goes, well, come to think about it, we don't get calls unless there's trouble. And I don't know of any calls on housing like this because I guess there's no trouble. And so I thought that was a good response. And so again, making everybody aware, I think this is something, as I go back to my committee with community and economic development, it's something that I'd like to explore with them. Just kind of giving you guys a heads up. And I've got some studies that say that this is a good idea as well. Studies that have been done within the last 10 years, not like 50 years ago.
So this really falls into a zoning issue, right? An example of some of the things that you're talking about would be Turtle Crossing, where you have mixed housing. You have duplexes and single-family homes. And actually, all along Northfield Avenue, you have a wide variety of housing opportunities. You have mobile homes, you have apartment complexes, you have 55 and older. They're not single family, they're multifamily, but it's 55 older. You've got duplexes, you have multiplexes, and you have single family, all in that same area.
And yet somehow segregated.
Yeah, there is a bit of segregation, but still within Northfield, you've got a lot of that mixed housing. It's when you get into the subdivisions where you start to see that goes away, right? Because the subdivision is all single-family homes. In the older parts of the community, a lot of the old homes, like you stated, were converted into duplexes, and I think there might even be some triplexes out there that were permitted, allowed to happen, and those are legal, non-conforming. We do have an ordinance that if it goes abandoned, or if there's a fire or something, it has to revert back to a single-family home. But I agree. I think mixed housing, there's a lot to be said for the variety of housing that mixed housing offers. So.
And I understand, again, not being from here, only being out here, 28 years or so. Like when Shadow Creek came in and people just were crazy because there were going to be these small homes next to these big homes. And it seems to be a pretty thriving community at this point, where there's workforce housing. Right along next to the.
Row housing?
Yeah. And those are, and I've sold some of those over the years, and you get a lot of single people who will move into those houses and stuff, and those single people.
Or a new family with a baby, right?
Exactly. And again, just something that maybe as we're looking at some of these subdivisions, we say, what if you put a couple of fourplexes? Mm-hmm. And, maybe, and again, it's thinking outside of the box, it's thinking 2040, and it's just something I think maybe we can be that community that's progressive and explore something like that.
Well, and I'll just point out that I'm pretty sure it's been since I lived here that the city enacted the rule that you can't, if you have an apartment over your garage, which there were quite a few, that if that is vacant for a year, you can't continue to rent that.
Correct. If it's vacant for a year, then it reverts back to a single-family home.
Right, which just seems very counterproductive. And I'm thinking specifically of the house next door to us, where there's a family in the house, and then the mother and a disabled sister live above the garage. And it's a wonderful situation, but if they sell the house, move, and the next people don't need that, then that's going to go away, and that's not going to be a resource for anybody in the future. And that seems like a negative for a loss for the community, because those are resources, and that is housing that is going to be, whether it's for a young person starting out or a relative that you want to have nearby to take care of, but they don't want to be in your house with you. They want to have some independence. I agree with Anna Marie, having more flexibility and creativity.
And I will go, on to say that there was a time that there were basically one or two people who owned all of these units. And they were not kept up, and we had a very difficult time, and I think the entire community, including myself personally, worked really hard to get that changed. But again, we have to watch how far the pendulum swings. And it's just something, now that the pendulum's this way, maybe we have to go a little bit that way, and something we should all, again, I'll bring up in my committee, of course, and we'll talk about it when we're zoning and when things come up. But I thought this was a great place as we're thinking, where do we go from here? That might be something that we need to consider.
Okay.
Especially because we want to make sure that the youth stay here and they can't exactly make as much money as, their parents or whoever, and they don't have the ability to get cheaper housing from the get-go like some of us were able to when Park Point went in, for example, because the houses were pretty, inexpensive, so to speak, at that point.
Expense is all relative, right? Today, people would say Park Point's pretty expensive, so. Okay, any other comments or questions on strategic vision? Okay, the next item on the agenda is talking about committee meeting structure and the review of it. So, I've had a lot of meetings with our staff and also looking at all of our scheduling and trying to schedule meetings and have the quorums at meetings. We've been running into problems lately where we've had several meetings, committee meetings, we did not have a quorum. And that's a problem because we can certainly send the business on to city council, but it kind of negates the whole purpose of having a committee if we're just sending it to city council. Recognizing we've had a change in city council members and not everybody has the same schedules as those previously, and also, we have a lot of meetings, and I think the committees have accomplished are accomplishing what we really wanted to create, where we got much more engagement from the city council to ensure that we're moving business through the council's business meeting each month. But from staffing's perspective, oftentimes we've got committee meetings that are happening a week or sometimes the day before the city council meeting, and there's just not enough time for staff to be able to action all of the items that come out of these committees. So staff has presented a couple of things that they're interested in maybe doing, and I ultimately, as a mayor, I have the decision of creating committees or not. I prefer committees because I feel like it gives us focus on these areas of oversight. However, it is becoming a barrier, I think, one, because we have so many meetings, and two, for staff to be able to be respondent to the things that they're being assigned to do. It is creating some friction. And so two options have been presented as to consider. One would be to essentially eliminate committees and go to a committee of the whole each month where we talk about all issues. And so, but we would design the committee of the whole so that there would be each of the various committees, like we would do all admin stuff, we would do all infrastructure, we would do all transportation or parks. And that would reduce our meetings to basically 2 a month. You have the business meeting, the standard regular city council meeting, and then a committee of the whole where we do all the work that we do currently in individual committees. The problem with that is that, one, it greatly reduces the number of meetings we all have to go to. And as a mayor who attends almost every committee, I attend a lot of meetings, a lot. And it is a bit stressful on my personal time because I'm in 2 or 3 meetings every month or every week. And I don't vote in these committees. I'm not really required to be there, but the mayor should be there because I need to make sure that I'm aware of what's happening in the committees and the work that's being assigned to our staff, and ensure that we're keeping up with the business at hand. So that's one possibility, but if we do that, that would create a very long committee of the whole meeting every month. Recognize we're doing 4 standard meetings that run between an hour and 2 hours a meeting. If we would combine all that into one meeting, nobody wants to sit here more than 4 hours. I mean, it would be
Not
really
unless we're
frustrating.
ordering in pizza.
It'd be hard. It'd be hard. We could certainly streamline things because I think, in a lot of these committee meetings.
What about doing it twice a month?
Well, hold on. So I'm going to give you all the options that we're discussing, and I want your feedback because, we all need to work together. So the other option would be, committee of the whole, and then a regular city council meeting. It also, that structure creates a few problems. Number one, for the Parks Board, because the Parks Board is made up of citizens at large, and the Tree Board, because it's made up of citizens at large. And the committee of the whole is council. It's not citizens at large. So citizens at large couldn't really vote in the committee of the whole. There are some suggestions. You could reduce the Parks Board back to just council members, and then those members who are citizens at large could seek to be on the Parks Foundation Board and have input into parks from that perspective. That's one thing we could do. The Tree Board, I I think the tree board is just going to have to be separate because it really is an advisory board. And truthfully, it was set up, and I think when we set it up, it's quarterly meetings versus monthly meetings.
Right, and we started out, I was going to talk to Deb about this, but yeah, we started out agreeing to do them monthly to get
Agreed.
things going.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
And I think we're pretty close to a point where we could probably do quarterly and then ad hoc thereafter. But if there's like a grant or something you really needed to get pressed with, you could call a special meeting. The idea here is, one, is to reduce everybody's workload from council, streamline the process, and then give our staff plenty of time to be able to do the work that council puts on them to do. The other option would be to keep the committee structure, but let's meet every other month. And so 2 committees would meet this month, and we would stagger the other 2 committees the next month. And that would greatly reduce everybody's participation time. If we needed to call a special meeting, we could, but that would give us a regular cadence of those committees, but reduce everybody's time commitment. I personally tend to want to lean towards the latter, where we would go every other month. If we continue to have problems with meeting quorum, then I might, revert back to, geez, we can't get a quorum for these committees because there's 4 members of the committee. If 2 are gone, Additionally, I think a lot of the committees, we were having meetings to have meetings. We were struggling for agenda items. So I think if we moved it to every 2 months, we would have a more productive meeting and we wouldn't be wasting people's time.
Mayor,
What's your input?
I promise you, for transportation, we have nothing to talk about. We're not having a meeting. I'll tell you right now. I will make that pledge.
What's your input? I appreciate that, John.
I like the idea of being able to go every other month, so that way the people that are still citizens can be able to vote, because otherwise I'd want to get their input first. I mean, that's obviously very important to them, so they should be able to speak.
So when I joined city council, my meetings were, for my committees, were on Mondays and Tuesdays, which worked out perfectly for me. Since I've joined city council, I've come to learn that our chairperson needs to rearrange the meetings every month because of his work schedule. But unfortunately, that interferes with my work schedule. And so that puts a hardship on me. For example, although August is a weird month because I'm going to be leaving town for a while, but Thursdays are generally bad for me. I have to rearrange my work schedule. I have to find someone to work for me on a Thursday evening for my second job, and they are very short-staffed. And so I'm also putting a hardship on the business that I'm helping out. So I guess that's part of it too, is that I came in with one expectation and one thought, and now we're moving to something else. I don't mind every other month as long as I have some consistency in what I'm doing. And again, I understand we all need flexibility. I'm just wondering, maybe every other month would allow for that flexibility with my chairperson.
Well, and it would, that could be moved, that could be on the Tuesday.
Right.
Because that was part of the problem,
Yes.
was that it was.
And if we put
two
those on
meetings on the
opposite
same-
months,
Yeah.
those 2 particular committees, we alleviate that problem.
Yeah.
Right?
And this calendar is just an example.
Okay.
So I just threw these, the mayor and I discussed, well, parks and community development kind of go together. Sometimes we'll put those in one month, and then the other month it'd be admin and infrastructure. So
yeah.
as far as the dates go, I just threw them.
Okay,
together. So
okay.
it's
And-
not.
And again, if it was every other month, knowing that, again, our chairperson's schedule does change, that probably would take a lot of the burden off of him, and then he could look and say, now, if I only have this meeting on a Tuesday, on that Tuesday, he knows that I need to be on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and then he could say, okay.
Yeah,
And that would make us.
the idea here is to try and accommodate so everybody can participate, because we need you to participate to move processes forward.
And I think I speak for, at least for myself and for many of the devotion of the council that I've seen, I think everybody wants to participate. I don't
Yes.
think there's a person here who doesn't want to. We're here because we want to be involved.
So, Joel, do you have any input?
I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on that. But if by stretching this or condensing it, is this going to just make these wheels turn even slower when it comes to progress or efficiency, especially with actions that we need?
It can in some ways, but I think in other ways it's actually going to increase our efficiency.
So one of the things we were discussing, and this is just an example, infrastructure, 2 months ago, we needed more research to make a decision. That research could have been wrapped up in a week. However, we didn't meet again until the next month, which was last night. So 4 weeks went by, and now we have to wait 2 more weeks to finalize what we talked about a month ago because we can't finalize it till city council. So the original, or the first proposal for COW would eliminate that 4 weeks. We talked about it on the second Tuesday. We can finalize it on the second Thursday. Going back to the second proposal, which is every other month, I don't really think you're changing much because we still have that same turnaround time. Also keep in mind that we could call a special meeting if we needed to. This isn't set in stone, so if there was something that was pressing that needed, to move forward quickly, we just, we need another infrastructure meeting next month. And we can do that. It's not, our hands aren't tied to this every other month schedule. So we could, as we go, we can determine what, some things need to be done right away. A lot of things, there really is no action, right? So, or the action is ongoing, through 2040 or, whatever we're discussing. So I think it could go both ways.
There's a lot of options. I mean,
We're just trying to make trying to make it more efficient, be conscious of everybody's schedules and times, be conscious of staff's ability to respond and do the work that we're putting on them. And so I think, if we can reduce some of the actual meetings and then consolidate them so that they're more, I don't want to say important meetings, but that there's more meat and potatoes there for us to work on, then I think in the long run, it will actually increase our efficiency.
We don't have to vote on surplus property every month.
No, and if we're having an admin meeting just to vote on surplus property, that's kind of, that's a silly reason to have just to have a meeting, because the property could be surplused at any time, right?
Also internally, it's important to know that we translate everything as we discussed, and approximately 11 to 12 hours a month is spent translating. So for every single meeting that we have every month, Jeanette is transcribing the minutes, passing them on to Sadie, who is translating those minutes, and then everything is getting publicized. So that's a significant amount of time internally that we're doing for meetings that surplus property type thing too. So if we could consolidate some of those every other month, and like the mayor said, have more on the agenda. She's still spending the time translating, but she's not translating as many hours for smaller things that could wait until the next agenda.
And then, of course, if it is every other month, and, if it is a committee that does have things, I think council members should, if they haven't already thought of, those might be longer meetings. They might not be just an hour if we have a lot on the agenda, if there are people who want to speak, if there's something going on. So the time may increase, but the day is just one instead of, and again, I just want to put that out there. So if you're looking to watch something at 8:30, you might have to,
Might have to record it.
Yeah.
I think, for me personally, reducing the number of meetings, not just some meetings go really long, some go really short, but if I could reduce the number of meetings personally, because I go to all the committee meetings. And then there's other meetings outside of city meetings that I attend as my mayoral role. So, it would be very beneficial for me because I need to do more travel for work, and these meetings are kind of hamstringing me a bit. So there is some personal benefit for me too, but I think overall for everyone, it would make life easier for all of us. So
I think we should give it a try.
okay. I think we'll put this on the agenda for the city council Rosa, did you have something?
I think that we should give it a try, like she said, and I think the 2 every month would be a good idea. I mean, yeah, streamline is good because, yeah, sometimes we're attending 4 meetings a month, and I can understand staff being overwhelmed.
Okay, we'll put this on the council's agenda at the end of the month, and we can kind of take a vote, I think, and to get you guys committed to doing it. So hopefully we'll have full council, and then we can kind of make arrangements moving forward for the rest of the year to kind of streamline that process. That's all I have on that. Any new business? No new business? Well, then I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Anna Platt-Miller, second by Lancaster. Clerk, call the roll.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Got off light. God, why were we,
All right,
why
thank
was
you
our
and
last
good
one like
night.
4 hours? I can't remember, but it was,
Thank you.
it was brutal.
Thank you, Rosa.
Thank you.
Didn't we have an executive session at the end of that one?
I don't even remember. See, I fell asleep
Yeah.
halfway in there.
Yeah. Was that
you
when
guys
you were
were
doing it
creative.
virtually? Were you doing that one from
No.
home?